about
beds.
as good
300
as
beds, okay.
I guarantee it's been more than 50 at my house.
that'll break
Bigger than the
somebody's
jail,
ankles.
bigger than the hospital.
So you have a lawnmower?
Yeah.
You did it
Those
just
are
right.
few problems too.
I got 529. I don't know what y'all got.
I got 531.
Oh,
That's
well, let's
more.
go. All right. We'll call to order the September 12th, 2022 meeting of the Upson County Planning Commission. Can I get roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Pitts.
Yes, sir.
Chair McKinley.
Yes.
Commissioner Hilton.
Here.
Commissioner Dawson.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam Chair.
All right. Let's see here. Minutes, we do not have minutes, do we? Okay, all right. We will skip item 2. Do I have a motion to move item 4 ahead of item 3?
I'll make a motion to move item 4 ahead of item 3.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you.
All right. Okay, item 4, new business, is an application for special exception, SPX 2022-09, Jonathan M. Housley, 1200 South Center Street, parcel T35002. We will open the public hearing. Mr. Housley, you've signed up. Do you have anything that you want to say to the
Yeah, if
commission?
you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay,
If you would, if you'll come over here and stand on the X.
okay.
Um,
I actually brought, there's a survey in there, basically, but it's just a prospective survey. Basically, what I'm doing is to try to get permission to add a building on that property. I came in front of the same board 18 months, 2 years ago. We were virtual then, and you approved it. And the idea was that I had to tear down a building that was there, which was an old mobile office building, and cut the grass, clean the place up, and it really was not much more than that. And it's been fully rented since then, and it's actually officially owned by my IRA, so I can't really touch the money, so the money is just piled up in there, and now there's enough money to add another building, and there's enough land there. All I'd like to do is get an approval to add a building within the setback parameters that are, within the county. And I'm not exactly sure, I got out there with a tape measure, but I'm not exactly sure what those are going to be. I've read them, but I'm not sure exactly where the building will be. So I was going to leave that up to, of course, when I get the permit to build the building, they'll make sure that the setbacks are intact. But all I want to do is add a building. It's going to be exactly the same thing that's there, built exactly like it. They actually manufacture these buildings to the same color. So it's going to be exactly what's there. It's just going to be an additional one. I don't know specifically how many units because that's going to be determined by the amount of room I have. But there's a drawing in there. I altered it just a little bit, but I can give you this if you'd like. And
Careful the wires.
okay. And I'm not really sure, like I say, I'm not really sure which way we're going to go with it.
I'll pass on that.
But prospectively, in one direction or both, I actually think that the other buildings encroach a little bit. That's why I draw it a little bit setback, a little further off of the existing, a little setback a little further than the other buildings. Anyway, there's nothing funky, just wanted to add a building, basically. The exact same thing that's already there, just,
So you're either going to make it parallel to the ones that's there or perpendicular to the ones that's there. It won't make an L shape.
or maybe a little of both,
Or
maybe
maybe-
the L
okay.
as well. That's why I redrew that, because I think when I submitted something, it was just parallel. And I thought, well, you know, if I've got a little more space, you know, and I didn't really know which way was better or which way actually maximized the utility of the land there. It's just that there's definitely a need for that, and I think they stay full. My units stay full, I think, mostly because I'm the guy who answers the phone on nights and weekends, and the rest of them are a service, or it's an employee somewhere of a business, and they're only answering the phone Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. So I catch a lot of people who are moving on weekends and need a storage unit.
This storage unit gonna be the same size as the other two?
Yeah, it's gonna be, well,
Well, the units are gonna be based on what
Units
space
are gonna be-
they'll fit the
Right.
offset.
yes.
Well, here's my concern. Anytime when you do away with coverage to suck up rain, what you gonna do with this rain runoff when you put this building up?
There's actually a drain that, yeah, and I'm familiar with what you're saying, and there's actually a drain which more than facilitates what is what's needed for a property that small. That's at the southern end of the property, and it's a storm runoff.
Do you have that plan with you?
I'm
Do
sorry.
you have a site plan with that?
No, I do not. I do not. It's
Is it on the front?
actually it's I think it's on there. I think it's this here. I believe that's what that's referred to.
So it's on the south, the back, away from the highway?
Yes.
Back
yes,
corner?
Yes. And I believe that Jerry Mallett, who has a body shop just south of there, has another one just south of that for his own runoff.
Which one are you referring to?
This will be showing this is a yard inlet right there.
Yes, sir.
That's where the storm drain is for it.
Yes, sir.
And you're planning to leave this just like the others are with grass and
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
around it? Okay.
Yeah, it's not going to be.
It's not changing anything with that?
It's not, no, it's really kind of a, I mean, if we wanted to limit the square footage that I added there, that would be fine. It's really just that I have extra space there and
You trying to do something with some money?
I'm just trying, it's exactly
You
it.
can adopt me.
No one I'd rather give money to, so. It's, that's really it, is it.
Any other questions?
No, I don't have.
Johnny?
No.
Okay.
It's gonna leave the grass, it's gonna
Yeah.
be a situation to pay.
No, that's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Can we get your staff
Absolutely.
report?
As you've heard from Mr. Housley, also in the name of Equity Trust Company of Thomaston, this will be a third building added to the two existing ones on a little over a half an acre. He alluded to the previous approval, the special exception, and the rezoning. This was rezoned in the past also from R5 to C2 at the same time that the special exception for mini warehouses was approved, and that was back in August of 2020. The conditions, as he alluded to, were removal of the existing building, maintenance of the grassed area, and part of the reason why we're here, number 3, if there were supposed to be an addition, you'd have to come back through the process, and then any stored vehicles have to be operable, and at this point, he has not been storing any vehicles there. This is at the intersection with Adams/Bluegrass Street. It also is within the 300 feet of the city, and so there is a special exception. I'm sorry, there is a special meeting of the Joint Planning Commission scheduled for 2 days from now, as required. As you'll see by this description on site, what's there, it is zone C2C, the C being that it's a conditional approval. The city boundaries are to the north, to the east, and to the south. East of course is across US Highway 19. It only connected the county to the west, which is Lincoln Park and the residential homes that are in that direction. There are special review conditions required for both the Board of Commissioners and the Planning Commission to review in terms of reviewing these types of activities. You've got a staff analysis that basically says we have a track record from this facility that up to this point there have been no complaints about the property. Certainly whenever I drive by and look at it, I've not seen the problem that we had in the past where grass was overgrown. I don't think we had problems with the buildings themselves at that point, except maybe that open office building which has now been removed. So in terms of negative impacts to the neighborhood, obviously they can always happen in the future, but the track record, at least for the last 2 years, is there's not been a negative impact. This is a transition area, commercial, with some residential to the back or to the west, which is not of the highest quality, as you can see in your staff report, the photos that I've added. A building permit will be required, and occupation tax has been paid since the business has been open. I believe that there, however, is not a posted address sign, so that's something that we will need to have. Staff recommends approval of this special exception amendment or addition. Of course, the Planning Commission tonight has the option of approving with conditions or denying. And we would certainly ask that the reasons for the decision be explained and discussed. This is the aerial of the larger portion. I've zoomed out in this particular case. You can see the two buildings that exist. You can just barely see the black top or the outline of the office that was there. Of course, that's not there anymore. You see, these are 2020 photos from the tax assessor's website. And of course, you've gotten an updated version of this plan from Mr. Housley. And this is obviously from US 19 looking into the property. This is to the north end of the property. And the southern end is where the buildings are. A view looking south. And this is from Bluegrass/Adams Street. This is the path, the driveway out of the complex, the facility. This is the house to the west, obviously in not the best shape. This is across the street, some vacant property, and there's a residential neighborhood beyond that that's incorporated into the city. All of these lots are also in the city. And this is the next door neighbor of the body shop. And that concludes the staff report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions or,
I don't have any.
okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
Any conditions?
Just apply the same conditions we had last time.
Second? All in favor of that? Aye.
Unanimous? Thank you. As you know, you now got your meeting before the Board of Commissioners. It's in your staff report, and that'll be next week. Well, the Joint Commission is supposed to be in 2 days. I guess Oasis will have to call you from the city if there's a change in plans. I think it was, what, 2 in the afternoon?
It's like 2:30.
2:30, but we'll see if they have a quorum issue.
Thanks, guys. I'll do
right.
a good job.
Have a good day.
Thank you. All right. going back to item 3, I'd like to start with item B, if we can, the revising of the RV as temporary housing. I believe everybody got this last month. The revised draft.
I've given, I nothing to do on it.
Basically, what we're doing is allowing this, Doug, we're basically allowing them without it having to come before us.
Right, it would basically take the current process from a special exception to a permit process. So you see in the draft that we changed the language from a special exception and still moved it in as an accessory use into those zoning districts, but recognizing the permit is required. And then the language that you see about the sanitary sewer, the septic tanks and the water, all that is being moved into the RV portion. You remember a couple of years ago we adopted an RV ordinance, which is now part of the codes, and basically you'll see all that language that, as you always see in your staff reports about, again, water, septic tank, etc., moved into the RV portion of the ordinance. I also do a little bit of cleaning up. Home occupations were listed by right as well as by special exception, so we take the special exception language. I was able to do a little bit of cleanup of the ordinance too, since we were in this particular section. So that's basically what you'll see in the ordinance.
So all the language around having to move it within a certain amount of time from the certificate of occupancy being given, all of that stays intact, is that right?
Right, it'll just basically move from, and again, as you know, the only flexible thing really is how much time you give the applicants, and you've fallen into the
12 months.
habit of just giving the 12 months, whether they ask for 12 months or not. And so that would be pretty much the same thing with me. We would make sure that they meet all of the qualifications and requirements that even allow them to apply for the special exception. And then, you know, we'll issue a permit that says, you know, you got until such and such a time. And there's a provision that's still in there where they can appeal or ask for an extension. That already came to the zoning administrator, not to exceed 12 months. So in theory, you know, it hasn't changed much. The only thing that did stay in is there's companion language. And you've only had one case that I can recall since I've been here that for health reasons, basically for special circumstances, there can be an RV put in place or a manufactured home. And actually, I think the one health case that came before you was a manufactured home. It wasn't even an RV. It was the sisters living next to their parents because there wasn't room in the house. And so there was that one. There was also one, no, there was an RV, so there have been two health ones. Even earlier than that, there was an RV for health reasons, though they hadn't built the mother-in-law room yet, and they wanted to add that, and so she was living in an RV. I think that was one of those after-the-fact requests for special exception. So anyway, those provisions would still come to you. If they're for health reasons, I did not move that language out of there. It would still come to you and the Board of Commissioners. They're unique, they're different, they don't happen as regularly as the other ones. Now, would they necessarily have different circumstances? Maybe not. But that's something, if you choose and you want to take the health-related ones out, you could do that and do this. But I thought because it's happened so infrequently, we would maintain the current process for health-related RVs and manufacturers.
Does anyone have any comments, changes?
Talk about
Yeah.
a time frame. Tell me about a time frame and the number of RVs that can be placed on this. And the other thing that I would like to mention is that due to the process of getting a septic system put in and getting a well drilled and all of this kind of stuff, a lot of that is, some of the folks that I talked to have applied for that, and they expected that their well and their septic system would be in place in a short period of time, but the way things are today, it's pushed back now. So that could create some serious problems for us. How would that?
Well, the benefit is that the process, instead of taking 2 to 3 months, because first it's got to go to y'all, then it's got to go to the Board of Commissioners, basically within the amount of time that I can verify that they've met all the requirements that they say they've met. And you think, well, you're in the same office as the building permit of the building official. That doesn't mean I know everything that's going on. I've got my own thing. I don't hear everything. So I would have to, make sure that the application included everything that it includes now. And yes, that's one of the requirements, that if it's a regular building permit, you only have to have the well permit and the septic permit. But in this process, and the language is in there, no, they actually have to be built and inspected so that you can take that RV and hook it into that. And again, this part of the ordinance goes back to 1995. This is original language. This isn't something that got put in later. So obviously this was a concern in 1995, and the concern was, well, we don't want you to say you're going to build a house and then 3 years later your RV's still sitting there. And you have, if you've committed and paid for your building permit, if you've paid for the well and had it inspected, if you paid for your septic, you probably mean it.
Yeah.
And again, we do have safeguards anyway. You get 12 months. And if we, see no progress, we're not going to give you an extension. And to be honest, there's never been an extension. We've never gotten to the point. We've got to the other point where we've had some people never move in because the timing worked out that they didn't have to move in. And sometimes, yes, by the time we get to the end of the process, well, they're done anyway.
So is your concern that they do this and then their septic tank or water doesn't get completed by the time they're ready to put this travel trailer
Yes.
on the property?
Yes.
So the language has to be written
They can't set it.
that they can't put that in place until that
That's all right.
septic or
It's
water is
there.
in place.
That's it.
Yeah, it's in there. I mean, I read
That's
it. I
unfortunate,
didn't
but
bring it, but I read it.
But, yeah, I think we have to have it like that, and that's what you're wanting.
Yes.
That's what you're saying, right? Okay. So
And
that has to be in place, even if they are having trouble getting those parties to complete it.
I was
That's
talking to
not,
someone the other day, and Randy Chastain was supposed to have been putting them in a well in like, I think he had 12 or 14, but he moved them out to like 18 or 20 now, so, that's down the line somewhere.
Yeah.
And
I know septic tanks are the same.
yes, that's critical.
I know somebody that had, their septic tank ended up being about the last 5 things that went in on a new house, just about.
Talbot County only requires that they have one of those portable tanks. I'm not saying we should do it, I'm saying
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
their requirement is for, for as your, sewage, is have a tank that you can haul and dump.
Mhm. But I would assume that most RVs come with that anyway.
No, this is an exterior, this is an exterior holding tank.
Oh, okay.
Like if you go to
Oh,
camp,
yeah, okay.
you go to
I
a
got you.
campsite that doesn't
I
have
got
full hookup,
Yes.
usually they have a dump station,
I
and
got
there's
you.
these
I
dump
got
tanks
you.
that you can use
Yes,
and,
I got you.
and roll down to the dump station.
Yeah, I would like to keep ours away from that. So are we comfortable with this language?
Yes, I am.
Do you need us to make a motion to accept this language?
Well, basically, the
Or do you
motion would
want
be to
to-
go to public hearing if you're comfortable with the
Okay.
language and you don't want to
That's-
wordsmith it anymore, to go to your public hearing so that we could schedule that for next month.
So do I have a motion to go to a public hearing?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Right. Keep that one there. All right. Next one is item 3A, discussion of the animal ordinance revisions.
Do you have a copy of you? I left mine.
I do have some extra of those.
I walked out and left it at the house. My pain function was not real good.
Anybody else, Steve?
I've
I
got
have two.
mine.
Okay.
You got yours?
Let me have one, Mr. Doug. Mine, I'm sure I have one, but I'll have to open a number of envelope.
Sharon, hand that.
Thank you.
All right, how do you guys want to do this? I know that we're looking at the handful of changes that we've made down through here in red. Do you guys want to go through this? Has everybody gone through this? Do we have any additional conversations to be had? Language changes? You know, my first and foremost with this is obviously to protect the, you know, how animals are being treated, but also to control in neighborhoods how a homeowner can, the process that they can go about. But a key part of this to me is how we're going to enforce this. Because if we can't enforce it, or won't enforce it, it doesn't do us any good.
Isn't that beyond us?
It is beyond us, but I want to make it so that animal control and beyond that has as much leeway to enforce it as absolutely possible. And I think we've done a good job of that.
As close as I think we could come.
I think as close as we can come. I mean, we can always come back to this if we find something that we have not addressed down the road.
It could be readdressed.
Huh?
Yeah, something could be amended if something's not working, but you got to start somewhere.
Right. So where are you guys, where's your comfort level with this as far as what I know this is draft 3 and we've come from nothing to what surrounding counties were doing to the first draft, then we've, you know, fine-tune that. Now we're down to this. Are we to the point now where we want to take this to a public hearing? Or do we still feel like there's work to be done on this?
Madam Chair, if I might, and I put this in the notes at the end of it. I only have two concerns. Number one, because of the size of this. I'm not sure that we've adopted an ordinance since I've been here this large and detailed. So first, I would like to check it for internal consistency and make sure that we don't have one provision that conflicts with the other one, because when you take parts of this and parts of that, sometimes that happens.
Right.
And then the other thing is that this hasn't been checked, at least not by me, against what we currently have. Basically, we just disregarded our current ordinance and we adopted, you know, the structure from another ordinance that you all liked a couple of years ago. And I'm not saying you have to delay, but I'm just saying I think
No,
there's
and
still work
I
to be
apologize.
done.
I saw that, but I'm also looking at July's date and thinking we're beyond that. So that's fine. That you're exactly right. We
And
need
if
to
you
do
want,
that.
if you do take more time, The benefit, well, I'm not sure the benefit, but look at ordinances that you adopted or put forward a year ago. We still have a corridor ordinance that hasn't been considered yet, and you also have a tiny home ordinance that hasn't been considered yet. We're getting close to a year. So I don't, and nobody, I believe, nobody's beating down my door about this.
So who's gonna tweak it, who's gonna go through this, and you're gonna go through it then?
Oh, I'll certainly do it, but the more eyes that we have, and, you know, I'll say all day, the expert we have is Adrian. He does this every day for a living, so nobody can look at this better than Adrian can and say, wait, we got some issues here, or yeah, that's good, or could you tweak this? So he's the ultimate expert. I don't know how much time he's had to review this.
He has a third draft with him.
Yes, every time you get an announcement that this is on the agenda, he and the other folks who were at that meeting that y'all had that was in the extension office, all the people that signed their name and email address, they all get the announcement and your agenda. I don't send them out another copy of draft 3, but they should, well, they get it electronically already anyway.
So maybe we just need to ask Adrian to be here next month and see how he feels about this while you're dotting all the i's and crossing T's.
We're trying to anyway.
And let Adrian make sure that he's comfortable with the duty. I'm with you on the duties and powers, control of the animal control officer.
Absolutely.
That if that isn't adequate for them, then
Right.
we've wasted our time. The rest of it is.
Well, and
It is what it is.
that's what I want to make sure that, which he gave us a lot of that information to start with, but I want to make sure that we're arming them with the ability to enforce this.
Is there anything here that could be questioned in a legal situation that?
Has
That
the
needs to be-
county attorney looked at
Have to
this?
look at this?
Well, they've been sent the earlier drafts. I'm sure they probably were sent this draft, but, they're made aware. They get the agenda as you do, and if it's a draft ordinance, they're sent copies of the draft ordinance.
We need to make sure that they've reviewed that too, that there's not an issue there. There could be some kind of legal issue.
Yeah. Okay. So if we can send this to Adrian, ask him to review this and come to the meeting next month.
And get feedback from county attorneys.
And get feedback, if we can, from county attorneys, just to make sure that language in here is acceptable to them. Then we can move to the next step after next month's meeting. Everybody?
I'm on board with that.
Okay.
And what I'll do is, if you're comfortable with what's in red now, that will be in black next time, and if any there are tweaks or any of the internal issues I find, those will be the new things in red. These won't be highlighted for you.
Okay.
So it'll be the next iteration, a draft 4 if there is one,
Right.
whatever tweaks I put in, that'll be red. So you'll be able to see those changes, because obviously this is the second round of changes. There were ones before this
Right.
that aren't highlighted. So this is very voluminous, and the chance of making errors is large. So we just need to make sure that we do fine comb it and do the best we can this round.
Yeah, I went through draft 2 to draft 3, so I think we pretty much captured all of that. I'm just more wanting Adrian, the one that's out there, to give his blessing in the county, because that's who's going to have to back it. County attorney is who's have to back it up. All right. You all right? Do we, well, we'll get down to that. I'll ask the question here in a minute. Item 5, other business, election of a vice chair. Do we want to put this off until the next meeting? till we have our 5th member. I mean, I'm asking for input.
When do you anticipate on having the next member aboard?
I
See,
think
that was
tomorrow
on the agenda
night,
for
it's
tomorrow
on the
night.
agenda for tomorrow night.
I'm good with that.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So item 5, we will move that to next month's meeting.
Have you, do you have any information on anybody who might be part of that as far as county commissioners? So,
No, I was told today, because I quickly asked, but I didn't get names, that there are 3 applicants that we'll have considered, and that's all I know.
you have 3 applicants that you talked to commission.
If you want me to email you the names, I can find out tomorrow and tell you the name.
Item 6, planning commissioner issues and announcements. Does anybody have anything?
I don't have any.
I guess the only thing that I would ask, and this is more of just to understand, specifically the gateway ordinance. We pushed that to the county commissioners basically a year ago. Is there a reason why it has not?
I don't think
Moved.
there's a active reason. It's not like, well, we don't like it still. I think it's just their plate's full, and it's just a matter of priorities.
To me,
Now,
that's a
can
big.
I remind, yeah, if you want to,
I would like to, because to me, that's a very important piece, and the more we push it out, the more we're allowing to be on those gateways that we can't undo.
well, of course, if it had been tested for 6 months to a year now, you would have known if you want to tweak that ordinance and
Right.
do anything with the provisions of that.
Even the tiny homes, I mean, they've had that for months.
Yeah.
About the same amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, we were asked to do the work. And,
Right.
You know, that, we ought to at least get some feedback why it's not being addressed.
Item 7, secretary's issues and announcements.
Well, we talked about one, which was the new member, and then the other one is tomorrow night is also Legacy Ranch. So I believe that I had sent you my revised staff report that went to the Board of Commissioners. What I did not have time to do was they supplied additional new information. There's a letter from a company that does wells. There's a letter from a company that does septic tanks. There is a letter from Sheriff Kilgore. I believe there might have been 1 or 2 other things. So I'm going to try to get a summary as part of the staff report for them was finished prior to receiving that information. I just kind of get my staff report revised and out, and then it was a couple hours later when that new information came in. So my staff report does not reflect that new information, but it's important. It's obviously deals with some issues that were highlighted as being under-addressed in terms of the application information. So the Board of Commissioners has had since last week with that information, as well as the old information that y'all did have for your 2 meetings. So hopefully they've been able to digest that. And of course, it's a public hearing, so whatever testimony is given tomorrow. But something will happen on Legacy Ranch. That's all I had on my agenda. Oh, and I had mentioned this earlier, but we'll be looking for new code officer. Greg Napier has turned in his resignation. He'll be working for the city of Jackson. It's closer to his house and probably more pay. So we'll be looking for another code officer. So if you all know anybody who's interested in code enforcement,
So we have 1 now.
we have one and one vacancy. We have 2 positions and we need to fill 1. And he's 2-week notice. Today was his notice, so he's got 2 weeks with us before the vacancy happens. But certainly, I hope that the ad goes out soon. And that concludes my issues on that.
In that case, do I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you.
Adjourned.
I'm happy.
Well, fall down back there, we had to go get you.
It's just